Welcome to Camp Chaos, where we celebrate the wild ride of modern womanhood.
Join us as we dish on motherhood, life's ups and downs, and all things pop culture that we know you want to talk about.
With special guests and expert insights, we're here to empower you through the chaos of everyday life.
Consider this your ultimate escape from the hustle and bustle. And as always, parental guidance suggested.
Camp is now in session.
Alex Spitz, wife, mama, and founder of New Mom School. Welcome to Camp Chaos.
Thank you.
We are so excited to talk to you about a bunch of different things, but I think the biggest part of you for right now is New Mom School. Like, that is your claim to fame, rightfully so.
I was going to say such a good flex. Like, I am the founder of the New Mom School. And you say that to any mom, they're like, wow, that's you.
Thank you. No, even I told my sister, I'm like, I'm having Alex on. She's the founder of New Mom School. She's like, really? I mean, she has done.
Well, she is like really in it with New Mom School.
She is in it. And like,
really sweet.
Those are her friends for life from New Mom School. So we're going to get into all of it, but let's start at the beginning of New Mom School, because I think that's probably what people want to know, because I think even for someone like me, it's like, why didn't I think of this? Why did I not
you didn't have
think of
kids,
this? I didn't have kids. Yeah. I know. Yeah. So let's go back to the very beginning of like when you first started New Mom School. And I know that there's a story before that. So let's start there.
Yeah. So I was pregnant with my first son in 2010. He was born January of 2011. And during my pregnancy, I really felt like I was put on this earth to be a mom. I was like, I got this. I was so excited about just having this little accessory that was going to come with me to all my, girl lunches while I was on maternity leave. It was the first time I wasn't going to be working since I was 15. I started working really young. And I was just going to dress him in cute clothes and baby Nikes, and he was going to be my little man around town. And then he was born, and as we all know,
that didn't happen.
Yes, the reality is so vastly different than the expectation. And it shocked me, and it shocked my husband and I, who had really had this really adoring relationship. And all of a sudden, it was like a ton of bricks that hit both of us. And we felt really disconnected. I felt like a hostage by my own baby. I could not understand why I couldn't get myself out of the house before 11 a.m. I had always been a really productive, active person. I would do a million things in a day. I was a doer. I just would take care of everything. And all of a sudden, I felt like I was frozen. I just couldn't understand why it was so hard. My brother and sister-in-law had had 2 kids already by the time I had had my first. And I call myself Judgy McJudgerson before I had my baby because, they had a hard time. And then when my son was born, I realized that it wasn't just them that had a hard time. And so I really felt like the reality, I felt so much shame and guilt for not actually enjoying it, because you know how people say, oh, enjoy every minute. It goes so fast.
Can it go faster? Who's going to press the fast forward? This
It's
is
like,
terrible.
it's so hard.
It's hard.
And it's so unexpected.
Mm-hmm.
So,
well, especially I feel like, movies since we were little, shows, now social media so much, but you're given this picture of what it's going to look like. And then when that's not your reality, you think there's something wrong with me. Is there something wrong? What is it with my relationship?
It's the same as marriage.
Yeah. It's the biggest letdown.
It is such a fairy tale in the movies. And at that point, this was 14 years ago now. I'm old. And there was no social media. There was only Google. And when you Googled, it was just the beginning of the mom blog era. So when I would Google stuff, I would actually find really good quality information and research studies. So my mom was the one who said to me, you have to find a mom group. And I was like, oh, I don't know. I was that girl in middle school where all my friends stopped talking to me. And it really crushed me, and it really shaped how I felt. I was really, really scared to be friends with women. I was really I was very protective of my heart because I didn't want to get hurt again. That left such a huge like trauma in my life. And so when she said join a mom group, I lived in LA at the time where there were a few different mommy and me options. And so there was one near me. I joined and I walked in there so nervous and so scared. But by the end of that first day, I was like, this is amazing. Like I feel good for the first time since having my baby. And he was already 8 weeks at the time. And these other women, what I didn't realize that was so magical about it is that everyone was strangers. So there was a clean slate. There was no preconceived notions about each other. Nobody knew what religion each other was. No one knew how they voted. All we had that we could relate on was that we all had babies the same age. And the woman who led the group, she was so sweet. She would hold the babies, give us hugs and things like that.
She would give you hugs.
She would give us
like, come here.
hugs.
That's what
Yes,
people need
that's
right
really
now.
what you
Cry.
need. But we also needed answers to our questions and she couldn't answer them. And I'm kind of an information junkie. And I went home and I started researching and I started finding all of this good information. And there was kind of this shift where the women in my group would start coming to me with their questions because they knew that I was researching and they didn't have the time. But for me, it was really fulfilling and it gave me confidence and actually made me feel more empowered because as a new mom, you feel like you're failing at everything.
Yes.
You never feel like you're doing good with anything. And then you go online and there's 500 ways to do things. And you're like, everything I'm doing is wrong.
Because
yes. And it's so hard to discern what's good, what's not. Well, it turns out there is 500 ways to do everything. It's really about what feels good for you, how your child is. Like no two babies are the same. And every book you read says every baby in the entire world should be doing X, Y, and Z.
Right.
But when your baby's not doing that, you're like, there must be something wrong with my baby.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And there must be something wrong with me. And you personalize, you take everything personally, you internalize everything, you think you're the problem, and then you just go into this spiral. And you like poor husband, poor partner cannot support you.
No.
They don't know what you've gone through.
Mm-hmm.
So what I realized was there was so much research about new parenthood, but it wasn't getting deployed to new parents. And I thought that this is so tragic because I can't believe that there is so much information out there that we're not getting this. And I just remember thinking to myself, like this whole concept of the mom group is so healing and helpful just as it is.
No, it's like this goes back to like our ancestors.
Correct.
Like having a tribe in motherhood.
Yeah.
Like and not having that, it's
Yes.
those differences.
Yeah. So women are hardwired to be tribal. Women are hardwired to have other women around them. Men are hardwired differently. And if we actually could understand how men and women function differently and what their strengths and challenges were and provide scaffolding around the challenges, but celebrate the strengths, we would be in a really different position in this country. I feel really deeply that the reason we are in the crisis we're in right now is because new moms aren't cared for in the way that they need to be. And new parents are not given the information that they need. And so I just remember thinking like, I could really do this different. Like I could really do this better. I could take this same structure and just add the educational and the research to it. And so when my son was 1.5 years old, my husband got relocated to Orange County for work. And I joined all the Mommy and Me classes at that point. And I left feeling that same disappointment that I left feeling with my baby group. No one's
bridging the gap.
You know, you go to the gym class and it's the 20-year-old who loves little toddlers but has no idea how to discipline them.
Right.
Has no answers to your question about my toddler is now tantruming. What do I do? You know, they don't have those answers. Churches, temples, they have Mommy and Me groups. They're just play groups. You just there. They have the toys. You sit there, you talk to other moms. There isn't really education to it. And it became really clear to me after moving here, that there needed to be something that was more structural with more structure, with more organization. And what I wished I would have had as a new mom was expert information. And so that's kind of where the idea came in, to have the experts come into the series. No other mom group was doing it that way. No other mom group was doing it where it was actually educational, you know? And so I just felt this really deep intuition that this is what I needed. And I have really high expectations. And so I know that about myself. I kind of like, I cut kids programs some slack because I know that they're not always going to be perfect. But I was just really disappointed with the offerings.
Mm-hmm.
And then I had so then I started it and I found an office to rent. It was in a therapy office suite. They had this empty office and they loved the concept. I made some postcards. I took them to the pediatrician. I took them to the OB, and I just started asking if moms wanted to come, that I would put together the curriculum. They would come once a week, and it just grew like wildfire from there.
As the seasons change, so do your skin's needs. Shifts in the weather can leave your skin feeling irritated, tight, and dry, especially if you have sensitive skin or conditions like eczema. But what if your skincare routine could help calm your skin and reverse the signs of cellular aging at the same time? Enter OneSkin. Founded by 4 PhD-level researchers, OneSkin is the only company with the OS1 peptide, the first ingredient scientifically proven to reduce the dysfunctional senescent cells, aka zombie cells, that build up as you age and make you more sensitive to those seasonal symptoms like tight, dry skin. Their products are free from more than 1,500 common irritants and backed by countless lab and clinical studies. Just a few of the reasons they've earned the National Eczema Association seal of acceptance.
So whether you have seasonal sensitivity or year-round irritation, OneSkin soothes and calms your skin while helping it become younger and healthier at the cellular level. For a limited time, get an exclusive 15% off your first OneSkin purchase with code CAMPCHAOS when you check out at oneskin.co. We love their product so much, and their eye cream is the only one that I actually see a difference. I recently tried switching to another brand, and let me tell you, it did not look pretty. Their body lotion is also my favorite. I use it every morning and night, and I truly see the difference in my skin.
Founded and led by an all-woman team of skin longevity scientists, OneSkin is redefining the aging process with their proprietary OS1 peptide, the first ingredient proven to help skin look, feel, and behave like its younger self. Get 15% off with code CAMPCHAOS at oneskin.co. That's 15% off oneskin.co with code CAMPCHAOS. After you purchase, they'll ask where you heard about them. Please support our show and tell them we sent you. Invest in the health and longevity of your skin with OneSkin. Your future self will thank you. Americans spend an average of 90% of their time indoors, but did you know indoor air can be up to 100 times more polluted than outdoor air?
Breathe easy with Air Doctor, the award-winning air purifier that eliminates 99.99% of dangerous contaminants like allergens, viruses, smoke, gases, mold spores, and more.
Air Doctor was voted Best Air Purifier by Newsweek, so it's no surprise that 98% of Air Doctor customers agree. Their homes' air feels cleaner, safer, and healthier.
Unlike other purifiers, Air Doctor captures invisible particles 100 times smaller than standard HEPA filters.
Head to airdoctorpro.com and use promo code CAMP to get up to $300 off today. Air Doctor comes with a 30-day money-back guarantee plus a 3-year warranty and $84 value free. Get this exclusive podcast-only offer now at airdoctorpro.com. airdoctorpro.com using promo code CAMP.
Was your first class, did you have like the structure and like people paid to come, or was it like just come for free and let me see like what I can do?
That. So
it was like 4 weeks, and it's like grab the card.
Yes, totally. What number are you? Yeah, I was like, I'll do a 4-week session, and I think I had maybe a sleep person at that point. I hadn't grown my team yet. Can't remember how we started, but I just had these 12 moms come together in this office. We all just sat with our backs against the wall because it was just this tiny little square room. And the women were just so happy. Like you can't not be happy in that setting.
Well, yeah, because there's a few things here. It's like, okay, the education part of it, but I so relate to like when I first had my son, the shock of how hard it is. And I was the same way. I remember I couldn't get out of the house until 11 a.m.
Yes.
We had a pediatrician appointment at 10:30 in the morning.
Yes.
And I told my husband, like, I feel like it's like 2 a.m. right now. Like, I feel like I can't get out of the house. So to have new moms be able to leave their house on their own, I didn't even know how to do the car seat.
Correct.
Until, I mean, why? A C-section. So I'm like, Drew, you have to do the car seat. I didn't know how to do it.
When I get there, how do I get them out? Yeah.
How do I get it out?
And dads are actually really good at that. They're really good with like the swaddling, the car seat, the stroller.
It's like their claim to fame in the beginning. Like that's their thing. But I feel like it was so smart to do this for new mom school because you're kind of like checking off so many, like forcing moms to do something that they don't want to do.
Yeah.
But I can't imagine that it like started for you what it is.
No.
Now.
I think that the biggest thing that I realized as a new mom was that there's these two paths. Like anyone can learn how to take care of a baby. Breastfeeding is so hard. Like it was such a shock to the system of like, why is this so hard? It's supposed to be these rainbows and unicorns, and feeding is its own beast. But anyone can learn it. Anyone can get through that. Anyone can learn how to swaddle a baby, put on a diaper. Like taking care of a newborn is actually quite easy. What I realized was that it was really more me that was having trouble.
Well, and like you get
it's like
so
the
much,
woman.
Yes,
because
you get so much education before
the transition.
though. Like they tell you read the books before.
Yeah.
I took the class before.
Yes.
I couldn't remember a damn thing from those classes that I took when the baby came. I was so tired. Like you need the education after when your baby's here, when you're like in it. So when did you start to build your team and like transition out of the small little therapy?
Yeah. So after those 4 weeks, the women wanted to continue. So then I charged them for another 4 weeks.
Like, now this is going to cost you.
Yes, now this is going to cost you. Yeah. And
you have to pay to have these friends.
We should start doing that.
That is what it felt like when I joined my group. I did feel like I was paying to have those friends.
But you
because
will at
there
that point
wasn't.
In your life.
So I say that I would have paid 5 times as
Totally.
much. Yeah. If I could do it all over again, I would have paid 5 times as much because those women became everything to me. We would meet up 4 days a week. We would take walks together. We would hang out at each other's houses. We would spend hours together. Our husbands became friends. And I really feel like the babies bond also. So newborns, there's this myth that newborns don't know what's going on. They're actually so in tune to what's going on around them. And there was something really magical that would happen as our kids grew and we would get together, even as toddlers, when we weren't seeing each other on a regular basis anymore. Playdates with my mom group and their kids were different than playdates with preschool friends. Preschool friend playdates was constant refereeing. You need to, time to whatever, like you have a turn. There's always this refereeing, mine. But whenever we got together as a group with those kids, it was harmony. It was
it's like
the
a sweet bond that they've
wildest
had.
thing. Like they knew each other's smells. They knew each other's. There's just like something so magical about them having those 8 weeks together as newborns and then continuing building those relationships together. And then the moms became, like I said earlier, when it's a clean slate and you're not joining a clique of other moms. You're not joining moms who already know each other, who have known each other since before birth.
Yeah, the odds of you delivering a baby at the same time, having the same age and joining the same school are very rare.
Yeah. So it's really intentional. We actually encourage moms to not join with their friends.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Well, so let's go through for maybe people who don't know what New Mom School is.
Yeah.
Like, what is New Mom School? How do you sign up? Why should you sign up? And like, what's the course?
Yeah. So New Mom School is a postnatal education program. It's really the missing link in total perinatal care. Perinatal refers to the period during pregnancy and postpartum. We've got the prenatal period kind of locked in. You have your OB, you have your midwife, you have your doula, you have whoever your birth professional is. You can go to them with everything. Then the baby's born and now the baby has their pediatrician. So the pediatrician is there for the baby. Who's got the mom? No one has the mom. So New Mom School has sort of bridge that gap. So it's an 8-week series. It's organized by the baby's birth date. And that's where the magic happens. You have to be able to relate to the other women. No one is up at 3 a.m. like you are with a newborn, with other women, except other women, and in the same phase. And, you know, I tell this story all the time and people laugh hysterically because I just remember 3 a.m. My husband was snoring his face off. I just this rage would come over me and I just wanted to punch him. And
we've all been there.
Yes, we've all been there. He was helpful. He could do what he could, but there was a real disconnect of really wanting someone that could really understand what I was going through. And once you have those other women who can understand everything you're going through, it really changes the game.
Yeah.
New parenthood is not supposed to be so hard. Like the US is ranked very low out of all of the countries in the world for postnatal care. Prenatal care is a thing. Like you said, when you're pregnant, what does your OB tell you to do? Go to the hospital classes, take your prenatal classes, make sure you're prepared. And then the baby comes, you don't remember anything.
Right.
Well, even all the books that you read, it's all about like the birth. And then I'm sorry, like 9 out of 10 times your birth plan is not going to go according to plan. So like all this research, all of this like deep dive community that you've built of like, this is all of my stuff leading up to birth. And then you get to take this baby home and you're like, now what?
Yes.
What do I do?
Yes.
You know, I do think, because I did new mom school and when I was signing up, my friends, I was not having friends that like, we didn't even know each other. We met later, not through new mom school, even though that would be great. We should just say that.
That would have been great.
But so many of my friends now are from Motherhood, which I didn't realize until now, like that would be my thing. But going through new mom school, for me, it was like, I need to find just a sense of like what to do with this baby other than staying home all the time.
Yes.
I didn't know I was going to find like other like women. The one thing for me that was hard in new mom school was I would hear other women's problems and I was like, oh, those are my problems too. But they weren't like, you would hear these things. And like, sometimes I feel like we get into this stage of motherhood where it could be really negative.
Yeah.
And like, I was having joy. I didn't have postpartum. So I almost sometimes felt like survivor guilt of like, why do I have this joy and this person doesn't? But then likewise, where then I'd hear some people are getting these 4-hour, 5-hour stretches and my baby's waking up every 2 hours. So it was this really weird push and pull of like having a sense of community and then also being bogged down by these other women's problems that weren't my problems.
Yeah.
So I'm like, when I met other people, I was like, oh, okay, you guys will rise. Like they say, hang out with the people that are happier and more successful than you. But I did feel like this sense of like, oh, wow, I'm in a complaining session too.
Yeah.
Which is a weird and could get negative. And
that's
then you
hard
hear
for me to hear because the instructor is really meant to not let it go there. And so we're really, you know, obviously like I can't be in every class and lead it the way that it's intended to be led, but there's still something about it that, you know, when things changed during COVID also. So classes there was a lot more stress involved.
Oh yeah, we
a lot more
in ours
anxiety.
we had to have masks on, and that right away I was like, oh gosh, like this is like the connection that you're supposed to feel, and then you're like, we have to be in this big room or far away. But I will say, I want you to take that lightly because I will say, when I left there, I felt like even more grateful of like, okay, I have this like sense of gratitude that I don't have what these other women are experiencing with postpartum, because it is such a real thing. Baby blues, postpartum, hating your husband to a level of where you're like, I can't even be in the same room with you.
I know.
I mean, don't get me wrong.
Well, and all these moms who are in new mom school are at like the most vulnerable stage where they're like feeling like, oh, this is a great place to unpack everything.
Like,
that
it sounds
true.
Crazy, but like I would show up and it's like, I would kind of get dressed. I would put a little makeup on. And then I feel like other moms would be there like, looking at me
just
like,
rolled out of bed.
Yeah, like I could barely get here. Why are you ready? And I was like, I was there of like like how you're saying, here's my accessory. I can't wait to be here. Like, let's like go shopping and go to lunch. Go have fun. And they're like, fuck you.
Right.
Yeah, I was probably the most hated there.
What kind of support did you have after baby?
My mom.
Yeah.
I mean, for me, I can't imagine not having a baby with my mom, but like it was like my mom, and my mom.
Yeah. So the reason I ask that is because so we know from research that if you have a trusted support person in your life, it's not your spouse, a nanny, a doula, a night nurse, any type of family member where there's no tension, where it's actually a good relationship, because a lot of women will have their moms around, but there's actually tension there between that relationship. So it actually can cause more stress. But because they need the help so badly, they deal with it. The more stress a mom is under, the harder time she's going to have, because the baby feeds off of the mom's energy. So in your particular situation, you had this great relationship with your mom who was really elevating that experience for you. Where a lot of women who come to new mom school who don't have that, the women in their group become those trusted advisors, become those trusted friends, and they do trauma bond.
Yeah.
I mean, there is something to trauma bonding. And as a new mom, you're really in the trenches. Like you're like a soldier at war.
You know, I will say, like, we had to go around and like say, which was so weird. It was like my first group of like having to like speak out of like what is your hard part of the week or what challenges you're facing. And I could not produce milk. And a girl after class said to me, she's like, can I get your number? This was, I think, the first or maybe second class.
Yeah.
She said, can I get your number? I have somebody that has an oversupply of milk. And I'm like, that is like the weirdest thing that I've ever heard somebody say. But like, here's my number.
You wanted the breast
She
milk.
connected me with somebody who's still one of my closest friends now. So she wasn't even at new mom school. She showed up at my house that night with a Yeti full of breast milk. And this is because of new mom school.
Yeah.
And my husband's like, who are you meeting? I said, oh, this girl from a class. I had to hide it from my husband because if I said that I was taking some stranger's milk, he'd be like, the hell you're not. And I'm putting you in a psych ward because you're crazy and I'm taking this baby away from you. So I was like, oh, we are exchanging diaper sizes. So I like took diapers out and I had to hide it in a freezer.
That's
it was
hilarious.
a whole situation.
Does he know that now?
He does. Yeah. She's in my phone still as Tiana Milk Mama. And like, she's one of my closest friends. And our kids now go to school together, but her baby couldn't take the milk. Like the whole thing was, it's like such a beautiful story.
That was me. I produced so much, and my second, he wouldn't take my milk.
Yeah, wild. And like then there's somebody like me who I'm like pumping and trying, and like my baby's desperate for it. And so I mean, I say like that part of new mom school, but then I turn around on the other side of my mouth say like my baby would not have had breast milk without new mom school.
Yeah,
like,
look at that.
That is like. And it wasn't
worth its weight in gold.
100, literally liquid gold.
Yes.
Well, and I also think, when you're a new mom, this is obviously in reflection. I'm like speaking like this because when I was a new mom, I didn't feel this way. But like, even I know, because I said I didn't do the program, which but my sister did. And so I feel very familiar with the program and I like kind of know the structure. When you get to share your birth story, I think that's so special because I remember with Miller, I'm like, does anybody care how this kid came out? And like, nobody cares around you. But to be able to talk to people about it, you're like, oh my God,
but
when
the other
did you
moms
get that?
do.
Oh,
they
you had
love
a
it.
C-section?
They do care.
They care.
Yes.
And so like to be able to sit in a room like that with people during that time and like share your birth story and just like go through all the moments is so special. And that is why you are so successful with New Mom School.
Thank you.
Just really quickly, who are the experts that come into New Mom School that people can learn from? Sleep.
Yes, sleep. I feel like we've really kind of gotten dialed in on what new moms need in each stage. So it ranges from sleep to a therapist that specializes in relationships. That's actually one of my favorite things and one of the things that moms remember most about their series. Moms will tell us that they didn't think that they would make it until they had that class. And then that class is what gave them the encouragement to actually either go seek counseling themselves or see the perspective from their partner's place. We're so like in our own tunnel vision when we're new moms, and we have these expectations of the people around us, especially our partners. But when we think about it, our partners actually know less than we do. So that is such an important topic that we cover. One of the things that happens as a newborn, you go to the pediatrician and your pediatrician is hounding you. Are you doing your tummy time? Are you doing your 60 minutes of tummy time? And you're like, my baby hates tummy time. I'm a terrible mother. Why do I need to do tummy time? So we have a whole class about why you need to do tummy time and why it's so important for their development. We talk about anxiety. We didn't have a whole class dedicated to anxiety before COVID, but what we saw during and after COVID is that now the rates of postpartum anxiety they're like at 80% of every new mom.
Gosh.
It's just terrible. I mean, we shouldn't be feeling that because that's what we know. We know from research that has a negative effect on baby. And it's more harmful for baby when mom isn't doing well. One thing about New Mom School is that we are mom focused. All these other Mommy and Me programs are really focused on the baby. And when you get into that bitch fest, you're not doing anything productive. And so I would have nipped that in the bud real quick, and I love hearing that because that makes me realize that we have to spend more time developing our instructors as well. I'm trying to think what else
don't you guys have
there.
or I know you have some sort of form of PT or like occupational
That's
therapy.
the tummy time.
Okay, because that's how my sister caught
the flat
the
check.
No, the baby.
Yes.
The baby. Somebody
flat spot.
Oh my God. I remember that being like, okay, do you remember being in school and doing the lice check?
Oh, yes.
You're like lined up and you're like, oh God, I'm a little itchy. Like,
I hope I don't have lice.
I remember that lady coming around and I was like, okay, sweating. Like, come on, Zane, you got this.
Yeah.
Like, you better have a round head. I'm looking at it. And because she does catch it before the pediatrician, which is like early, like that, having that was like, oh my God. But I remember there, I was like, high five, buddy. You did it.
You did it. We did it.
Oh my God.
Okay, so that's the tummy time.
Yeah,
class.
that's the tummy time and
so
head
the
check.
newborn series is 8 weeks, but then they can keep going. Because my sister, I think, is still in New Mom School.
Oh my gosh, she's never leaving.
Like,
how old's her baby?
He's 7 months now.
Yeah,
she's in play groups now.
Yeah, she's in play groups now.
Okay, so we
call it rising toddler.
Rising toddler.
Yeah, because you turn at 12 months, your baby becomes a toddler. So this is the 6 to 12-month-old class. We call it they're rising toddlers.
So this is so much more than like just New Mom School. I know that's the title, but like people even that have second, third babies, they still join, right? Like it's not
we
just
have
like
a specific second-time mom class.
Oh,
and we in Newport, where we have our flagship, it's mostly women who, 90% of second-time mom classes are moms who came with their first baby. But in new areas, so now we're franchising.
Which we have to get
into.
Because last time we talked, we were just starting franchising.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is insane. Like this idea that you had that started now here. So let's get into
10
the
years
franchise.
ago, the first was?
12
years ago.
Yeah,
and then
2012.
when did you open the second, third? Like how did we?
So
let's talk about the progression.
I only had my one in Newport until I decided to franchise.
Wow.
During COVID, we attempted to start in Encinitas, which is down in San Diego, and Long Beach, which is in LA County. And it just wasn't the right time. Like we had started planning the additional openings before COVID, and then COVID hit and we're like, okay, let's just do it anyway. Let's see how it goes. But then I decided that that's not how I wanted to roll out other locations. And so in 2023, we decided to launch this as a franchise. And let's see, we announced the franchise in September of 2023. We're now, where are we? March of 2025. We have 28 locations in development.
How many?
28.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And counting.
How busy have you been? Wow.
Like I've never been busy before in my life.
Yeah, you thought kids would keep you busy. Then you like decide to franchise New Mom School.
I'm in a good spot because my kids are older. They're very busy.
New Mom School is probably your hardest kid.
New Mom School is my most rewarding, my most fulfilling, and my hardest child at the moment. And I had neurodivergent kids.
Yes.
So I have been through the ringer in motherhood. Yeah. But you know what? You know how we really just want to know what our purpose is? We're here to determine what our purpose is. And I have come to the conclusion that my purpose is to struggle as a mom so that I can understand what moms need. And my goal for the future will be to help support moms who have neurodivergent kids and make sure that new moms across the country have the support that they need and the education that they need.
And that's because of your experience. You have like a hand in all 28 of these locations, and it's going to continue to grow. But it's because of your experience in motherhood that like all these moms are being touched in this really special way through education and all these things. Let's get into the neurodivergent conversation and your experience with it, and just kind of maybe the unexpected parts. Because like we've already discussed, motherhood is hard enough, but adding like, you know, additional, I don't even know how you say it, like additional stressors to it can just make you feel even more alone and almost like impossible. So let's talk about how you felt in the beginning.
So when my son was in preschool and we would have these play dates, I kind of just noticed that there was a little difference between the kids he was playing with and him. And he was incredible. He was observant. He was bright. He was smart. He was coordinated. He was a good sleeper. And he wasn't actually diagnosed until 9. Because he didn't have the typical signs. But there was always just something that was different, incredible, but different, and challenging because mainstream school, mainstream education, mainstream programming is geared towards neurotypical kids, which means kids that don't have any type of diagnoses. And so I, once again, information junkie, dove in. I looked at all the different kinds of therapies that were available, different schools. We moved schools often to make sure that he was in an environment that would celebrate him instead of punish him. And I learned that there were, I call them backdoor therapies. They're not like the talk therapy or the play therapy is a good one, but that didn't quite work for him either. So we found all sorts of different kinds of things. And what we really needed to find, anything that made him feel loved and accepted, was therapeutic. And those were my backdoor therapies: music, horseback riding, like after school robotic programs.
All the nurturing ones.
Just with people and instructors that thought that kids were incredible, because kids are actually extraordinary. The reason it's so hard for parents is because we're putting our expectations on how we think they should act. But actually, we have so much research about how brains develop. If we, and that was my biggest mistake, was trying to, you know, shape my kids into what I thought they should be instead of just celebrating who they were. And that's been my journey. And it took me a while to get there. But once it clicked that my kids were so incredible exactly as they were, and for me to just make sure that they were in an environment that saw them in that way too. My advice for any parent who's going through this with their child, whether they've been diagnosed or not, whether they see something that's different for their kid than another kid, and the child comes home and they're melting down, or they're begging not to go to school, or they're getting in trouble at school, it's because the school's not the right environment. And I beg of you, find the environment that accepts your child as they are and loves them as they are and helps them grow and evolve with who they are. Because as you all know, with multiple children, they're kind of born with who they are.
Oh, 100% they're born with their personalities. We're talking about that before you walked in. Like,
yes.
Nurture over nature. Like they are, I think it's like 80% of like they are who they are and 20% of what happens to them.
Yes.
Can I ask you, when you talk about like in preschool, because I think my son is very, very bright. And I think the way that his mind works is incredible. He speaks 3 languages already at 3. Like he's
amazing.
But I also think like the way that he plays is like, he's not the one that's like running and jumping in. He's like much more of an observer. And so I think, and he's been like that for as long as I can remember. My daughter, complete opposite. She is like talking to 7, 8-year-olds at 18 months and like trying to make friends and like be. So they are who they are, and I will celebrate who they are for the rest of their lives. But when you say you were watching him play, like what was he doing? Was it like he was a lot louder and more wild, or was he like, what was the behavior you were seeing?
He was interested in things that were different. than what the other kids were. So if we were in a music class and we were supposed to be in circle time, he was across the room inspecting the guitar that wasn't part of the music class yet. And he was very
like interested in how things
just
work.
very interested in how things worked, as opposed to sitting in the circle and singing the song. Like he didn't need to be part of the group. He needed to, like, in hindsight, I realized he was trying to fulfill a need that he had for, like, knowledge, I guess. And I'm very similar to that. In getting to know the neurodiverse world, I've realized that I'm probably undiagnosed myself. And it's been such a blessing learning about it, because I've learned so much about myself too. And as I learn more about myself, I could be more empathetic to him.
Well, they say these kids teach us so much about ourselves, and it's so true.
So true.
So, because I do think that we also are so often just labeling these children now, and too frequently we're just saying, oh, this child's autistic. Oh, this child's ADHD. Oh, this child, like, the labeling is just so intense.
It is.
And
it's heavy.
Like, the disorders, the this, it's like, these kids are just kids at the end of the day. So what was your process of actually going through I hate the word diagnosing.
Yeah, evaluation.
An evaluation.
Yeah.
Okay.
So to your point, in my opinion, it's the environments that they're in that are causing the challenges. And the diagnosis doesn't really mean anything. It's really just more that the kids just need something different. And your kids are younger. As they get older, you'll start learning about something called an IEP, which is IEP, which is Independent Education Plan. So if you are in a public school system, for instance, the school districts have to create these IEPs in order for kids with these diagnoses or learning differences to be successful at school. It's part of an inclusion goal so that kids with disorders can participate like kids that are neurotypical. The challenge is that so anything for the masses is going to be a certain way, right? You don't ever go to, like, I always compare it to food at a banquet. It might be good. It's never going to be like that, like
the best
gourmet, made to cook for you at that delicious restaurant that is just like mouthwatering. It's going to be okay. It's going to be edible. The education is going to be edible for most kids. Is it going to be delicious? Is it going to be rich? Is it going to have nutrients? Is it going to allow the kid to flourish? No. It's going to allow the kid to survive, and sometimes barely survive. And these poor teachers have 30 plus kids in their classes, and 30% of them have these IEPs. And this poor teacher is trying to figure out how they follow the plan for each child. And if you look at those plans, so many of them have very similar, they're called accommodations. So very similar accommodations. If my child gets frustrated and needs to move, they can go walk a lap outside on the playground.
Well, haven't you seen the thing that like 90% of kids get less time than inmates outside?
Yes.
They get less than 1 hour.
So this is a great point. So this was exactly my point. Well, don't you think all kids would benefit from going and taking a lap outside?
Why are we not? Yeah.
Why are we not doing it? Why is this happening? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So
but then I think about the kids that are neurodivergent and labeled. And yes, while some are, so many of them are just lacking what children need.
Correct. That's exactly right. So if there was a shift in, we've strayed a lot from brain research. We know what the brain does. We have so much more research now than we did, decades ago. But we've strayed from implementing that. And it's really challenging. It's really, really challenging to see. But what we did was we pulled him And we put them in, both my kids, we put them in really small environments. And that meant alternative looking education systems. One of
the best thing you did as a parent.
If I could tell parents one thing is don't wait till later. If you see your child struggling early,
it's the school.
It's the school. Yeah. It's the environment that they're in.
It doesn't match for them.
And there's so many options now. There's so many alternative style schools. Mm-hmm. The best thing you can do is do it early to make sure that you're not messing with their self-esteem.
Right.
So what happens is when kids are getting in trouble because they can't fit the mold is that they start thinking that there's something wrong with them.
Ugh.
And then they start acting out because what do we do when we feel like there's something wrong with us? We have tantrums. We think there's something wrong with us. We retreat. We're sad. We're depressed. And we're seeing depression.
And then mental illness comes in.
And then there's mental illness at a really, really young age.
You know, I think it's so funny. When I walk into my son's preschool, there's a big sign that says, we celebrate immaturity. Mm-hmm. And I never understood it until this conversation. I was like, oh, that's so cute. Like they, celebrate mm-hmm. and they applaud that.
Yeah.
But I think when you look at other schools, and I'm not blaming all schools, it's just finding what's going to fit for your kid.
Correct.
We try to make them obedient.
Yes.
Sit down in a chair.
We try to make them little adults.
Yeah, and they're not.
And
you need to celebrate immaturity.
Yeah.
Because they're only little for so long.
When you say around preschool, you started noticing things, but you didn't get the evaluation until he was 9. Even just like bringing that up to your husband and just kind of looking at life probably a little differently. What were some of the bigger challenges that you had to face? Just like in general of being a mom, like did you start to pull away from mom friends? Did you have to change groups?
That's a great question. I did. I became pretty lonely. I knew that we were working with a child that had challenges that were different than what my other friends were experiencing at home. And it made me feel pretty sad, pretty lonely. My husband has always been really supportive. He wasn't doing the research on his own, but he knew that I was.
He trusted you.
He trusted me, and he let me lead the educational journey.
I feel like that's huge because when you have even any decision with your children, but especially when it comes to education and their overall wellness, and at that age, if you have a partner that is challenging you and you feel like you're vindictive in your research and in your intuition, and they're pushing back, it's almost like it fuels you more.
Yes.
And then it can lead down a very scary path.
Of course. There's so the divorce rate amongst parents with neurodivergent children is in the 80%.
It doesn't surprise me.
Not at all.
Because like I said, it's an added layer of challenge and stress. And it's like, that's why I asked that question. Cause I can imagine like you're finally built your mom life that you thought you were having. And then it's like, wait, let's pull away, not for any other reason other than like you're putting your baby first and you got to figure this situation out before you start. And it's almost like you're just being protective because you just want to make sure that you're setting him up for success, but you're realizing that maybe the situations he was in before were not setting him up for success.
What is the biggest thing you've learned about yourself through this process?
Oh, I love that question. The biggest thing I've learned is that I have all the answers in my gut.
Oh.
And that I don't need external sources to, even when you want people to tell you what to do or you want someone to give you an answer, you can ask for assistance, you can ask for input, but no one knows your child like you do and what you need like you do. So I've become very introspective with what my needs are, what makes me feel good, who I want to spend time with. As I know more and more people who have gone through new mom school, who are opening new mom schools, my circle gets smaller and smaller because
you're picky.
I have so little free time that every minute that I spend that I'm not working or that I'm not momming, I want to leave being like, that was amazing.
Oh, well, thank you for coming to
us.
Fill her bucket. Fill her bucket.
Yes.
No, but I think it's so interesting. And I think some of this comes with age too, as we just get older. Like I'm 35 and I feel like every year it's just getting better.
Yeah.
But I also feel like in motherhood, you just get more and more confident. And in the beginning, it's like, it goes back to new mom school. Like you're like, what the hell am I doing? How do I get here? How do I get the car seat out?
Yes.
Like, how do I swaddle all the things? And then you're like, I want to have more kids because I just know what I'm doing now.
Yeah.
And in pregnancy, but with all of these things. But I feel like if you could teach 20-year-olds, 25-year-olds, even 30, like, and it doesn't matter the age. It's not like it's a number that's just attached to it, but everybody's different of when that hits you. But you're like, God, like youth is wasted on the young. Because now I feel so confident and I feel so good in my, like what I need. But now I'm like, now I need like some Botox to like to match what I looked like back then. But I love what you've done for New Mom School. And I can only imagine what you're going to do for the neurodivergent community because
one day.
I imagine that you're going to be sitting here in the near future of telling us all
I know.
the
What's the next goals for you? Continue to.
Yeah. So, I really feel like New Mom School is a movement. And what we're finding in new communities is that because like the whole mommy and me thing is no new concept.
Right.
I'm so grateful for the trailblazers before me who realized that women needed this. But the way that we're doing it is different than anyone else. And so there's a blessing that it's a white space and there's a curse that it's a white space. So the more that people can have awareness around why this is so important and why it has such a positive effect on your child, your son, for instance, being in that class, there were so many nuggets of information that you would have never known before being in that class. You would have never known about the head thing. You would have never known about tummy time. You would have never known about milk donors, right? And I just had this funny thought when you were talking about your husband and not being okay with it. There's this misconception that every mom in the history of time would just breastfeed her baby, and that if you can't breastfeed, there's something wrong with you. So actually, since the beginning of time, there were women who couldn't produce milk.
Oh, 100%.
And what would happen to those babies?
You would nurse my baby. We've had this conversation. I've asked her if she would
have
nurse
a
my
wet
baby.
nurse.
She told me she wouldn't.
Or the baby would die.
Yeah, no, it's called tribal community.
Correct.
And that's why we had this conversation about breastfeeding. I'm like, well, wouldn't you breastfeed my baby? And she's like, looked at me like I was crazy. I'm like, but if I couldn't and there was no formula, she's like, well then, but like we've totally taken back all of the innate things that make us human and especially women. But I do think through motherhood, there is this like weird, crazy thing that like, it's just animalistic, like instinctual that comes over you.
Yes.
I'm lying to my husband and taking somebody else's milk.
Yes.
That is actually batshit crazy. But I didn't even think twice. It wasn't even like let me think about it. Thanks for the offer. I was like, here's my address. I'll see you outside.
Yes.
And I stand behind it. I do it again.
What I think is more crazy is that we've gotten into this culture where we have to ask permission from our partners for things that have to do with our children. Yeah. Where if we know that this is what they need, why are we asking permission from someone who actually has less knowledge and information than we do?
Alex, you're going to think this is nuts and this goes into a different conversation, but like even the okay, 6 weeks and then you can have sex. Mm-hmm. Why? Because some medical professional told me now you're allowed to have sex with me. I don't feel like it. I don't feel good. I just tore in every which direction. Like you are not entering because I went to my OB. Yes. In fact, I lied and said, oh no, we had to cancel. You had to push it out because I'm like,
so said I'm not ready for another 3 months.
Yeah. So because it's like all of these things that we're told and we hang on and it's like, no, I don't feel like it. I don't feel good. I don't
just because we have a marriage contract means that I have to do something that I'm not ready to do. Yeah. That's a whole other podcast about marriage and finding confidence in motherhood and in individualism. So that's such a good point. And I just want to talk about this for just a minute about how we have these new babies and all of a sudden we completely lose ourselves. So something that you didn't even think was an issue before having a baby, like going to the bathroom by yourself. Why is that something we ask for permission to do after we have a baby? You're like, please, can you just hold the baby so that I can go to the bathroom? Like, why is it not just take the baby, I'm going to the bathroom? Yeah. Why can we not get a shower in every day? Why do we feel like we have to set up childcare in order to go take a shower? No. take the baby. I need to go take a shower.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, these basic hygiene. It's not
not
self-care.
self-care.
Jinx. It's not self-care. It is hygiene.
Okay, when I became a mom, I started saying to people, and I still say this like once a week, the longer I stay married, the more I understand why women are lesbians. Because the women that have nurtured me through pregnancy, postpartum, and like just becoming a mom, and then like my husband, I'm like, you have a different husband, I know that.
Yeah.
So we'll honor him. But it's like, I understand why women love women because they love on you. They mother you. Like I had my girlfriend drive from LA to bring me everything to get my milk supply up. And she was at my door within, you know, an hour of me getting home. Like the way that you mother mothers is incredible. And then you look at men and you're like, I don't have to ask you to take a shower.
Yes.
This is your child.
Yes.
This is your child.
Yes. Correct.
I need to have a third baby just so I could do
and
it
I'll
different.
rephrase it a little bit. It's that there's this power in sisterhood. And it doesn't have to be a romantic relationship.
Don't worry, Taylor. I'm not trying to marry you.
But honestly, I do. But there's something to be said about the fact that we're so disconnected in motherhood, which is what New Mom School does. It kind of reinvents the village. We're never going to go back to being in villages. I mean, maybe one day. Like probably will be like, it's looking pretty good. I have this really fun, like I always say, like, I want a mommune. Where we're all, it's my best friends and we're all raising our kids together in close proximity.
Yes, please.
And our partners are there for joy and fulfillment and not as like
we're serving them.
Yeah. And like, they don't have to be like us.
Yeah.
They really don't have to be like us.
You just want your community.
Yes. Like our romantic relationship should fulfill different needs than our motherhood relationship should.
And I think maybe equally as important.
100%. Maybe a little more.
Equally as important.
So
like
your spouse relationship. Can you bring in the mom union?
Yes. The mommunes. Yeah.
The mommunes.
Yes.
I know you have a lot of work to do.
I have a lot of good ideas.
I think that is one of, if not the best highlight that I hear from everyone who participates in New Mom School is the Motherhood Tribe. There is nothing like it. I mean, we developed our Motherhood Tribe outside of New Mom School, but it's just being connected with moms is the best gift you can give yourself.
Yeah.
In new motherhood.
Yeah.
And I think New Mom School just like serves that to you on a platter because you're so connected with these people. You're seeing them every week.
You just show up.
You just
show up. There's no work. You don't have to, like, finding a new mom friend is like dating and it's actually quite uncomfortable. Whereas with New Mom School, you show up on the first day and it's given to you. You don't have to do any work. We do that for you.
Right. We slid in each other's DMs. And she posted something on breastfeeding. I was like, you want to go for coffee? She's like, sure. I'm like, I would never have done that before. But it's through having children that you're like desperate for a connection.
Yes.
Which is beautiful. Because now look.
It is.
Well, tell everybody where they can learn more about New Mom School.
We're New Mom School everywhere. We're at New Mom School on Insta. We're newmomschool.com online. If you're interested in bringing this to a community near you, we do have limited territories because of demographics and population numbers. Our territories are selling quickly because this is so needed, but we do have quite a few still available across the country, and I just can't wait to see what the rest of this year and the coming couple years looks like. We're going to change the way new moms are cared for.
It's amazing.
It's needed. I mean, I just don't want the U.S. to be so far behind anymore, and I want to see a decrease in postpartum mood disorders. I want to see an increase in joy and happiness after new moms have their babies. They shouldn't be so lonely and isolated. And I want to see an improvement in child's health and well-being and a decrease in child's mental health disorders.
You're doing all of those things.
You're doing the most. Yeah.
I'm so excited for you. Thank you so much for being here.
This was so fun. Thanks for tuning in to Camp Chaos. We hope you enjoyed today's episode.
If you liked what you heard, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review our show. Connect with us on social media at Camp Chaos Podcast. Until next time, campers.